let's begin. So AMP script. So AMP script, what is AMP script used for? Since the people have actually worked on it, if not understood it too much, but they have worked on it. So what it does? So there's only one point agenda for using AMP script: personalization. That's it. There's no other use of AMP script. Okay. So it's a very powerful scripting language. As the name suggests, script. It's a scripting language, just like Java script of yours, Python, or for that sake, Perl as well. So this is another scripting language. But the difference over here is it's not cross-platform. It only works in Salesforce Marketing Cloud because it's proprietary of Salesforce Marketing Cloud. So nobody else can use it. Nobody else can use it outside of Marketing Cloud. It can be run. It can run on runtime. Run on runtime. It executes on runtime in Marketing Cloud only. Okay. So that is what AMP script is all about. And there is no acronym. Initially, I thought there would be an acronym or something, but it is AMP script. So AMP script, I wanted to understand before beginning the session with basics. So the people who have worked on AMP script, what kind of use case do you get? Or or do you, it's like you get the scripting from client and you actually execute it and making some changes onto it, or you create this AMP script code with yourself? How does it work in your world?
Basically, sometimes client send us some queries that they want personalizations by names or in their content also. So we do that
Mm-hmm.
sometimes. So basically, we do AMScript
Okay.
by our in house only.
Okay. So it's not part that generally client sends it to you.
No, till now we haven't.
Okay, fine. So that's good in a way that you get to build that expertise on AMP script. Okay, what AMP script does, it gets rendered at the execution time. So it could be on a mobile device, or it could be not device as in uh, web page. So it could be on a landing page. Okay, a landing page is a page which is external to the world. So you remember I created a smart capture form the other day.
Yes.
Yes, so that is something of a landing page. So you can use their AMP script over there. Of course, you can use it in Email Studio in the emails that you're sending to your subscribers, and in mobile SMS as well. So in SMS as well, you can use that. Okay, so these are three major areas where AMP script is used, and of course, in emails, it's used in and out. So the heavy usage happens in email that you're sending to a subscriber. And as we mentioned and we have gone through, it's only for personalization, making email more interactive, more leaning towards the what customer likes based on his behavioral data. So that is what the whole usage of AMP script is. And as I said, it's a scripting language, so only native to Marketing Cloud, built by Marketing Cloud for Marketing Cloud. So it's nothing difficult to learn, to be honest. It's more of a functional language. It's like make of functions. That's it. You cannot. How many of you have worked on JavaScript or any other scripting language, Perl, Python, etc., etc.? Okay, fine. So in JavaScript, what happens is basically you can create your own user functions in any language. For example, not even scripting. In any language, you can create your own user-defined functions, and then you can utilize it for your own convenience. So, but in this case, it's not the thing. In AMP script, you need to you have predefined functions for your usage. Okay, so as I said, server scripting language syntax is very simple. It's not there are two different type of syntax for a AMP script, so they are pretty simple. We'll go through that. Content personalization all the way around. Basically there are two parts to this AMP script. One is your functions, another one is your the blocks that you use. So we'll go through that. One is functions. The first part is, as I said, compared to other scripting languages in the world like JavaScript and etc etc, those allow you to create your own functions. So when I say functions, for your understanding, I'm presuming nobody has at least some of you have zero background of languages, programming languages. So I'm coming from that extent now. So what is a function in a language? So for example, if you build a function in a JavaScript, which will do what is basically output a certain number every time. Let's say as small as hello world, you want to print hello world every time, you put it in a function and then call it every time whenever you want. So you need not to write the whole code of hello world to be published every time. You just call that function and you reutilize it. So that kind of functionalities are missing in AMP script. That can be a part of JavaScript and other scripting languages. In AMP script, there are basic functions. In fact, around 150 odd functions are there. Pre-built functions, system functions, which you can use for your expertise for personalization. VLOOKUP, as simple as that, add, subtract, all those mathematical formulas. So it's pretty much similar to that. So it's like you in a particular way, You use name of the function and then bracket, and then you pass some parameters to it, and it gives you a result. That's it. So that is what the functions do for your AMP script. And as I said, there are around 15, if I'm not wrong, there are 15 functions which are actually pretty similar to Excel. Number of outputs that they take and the type of output that they give. So that's actually pretty similar to what Excel does, at least as far as 15 functions of AMP scripts are concerned. So functions are pre-built. So functions could be like add, subtract, multiply. These are functions that I'm talking about. So these are pre-built. Okay. Before beginning, what is the basic construct, or what kind of uses that can be put to AMP script? So like for example, there could be 3 or 4 categories that I can think of that can be of usefulness for AMP script. So in fact, 3 4 categories of functions. So one of the types of functions are like transforming. You put it to lowercase, uppercase, you do some formatting on the currency. So you're basically transforming the data. So one category of the functions of 1 or 50 or approx functions is for transforming. Another one is of doing mathematical operations, add, subtract, multiply. All these mathematical operations are also supported. That is another category of your AMP script functions. Next one is your CRUD. So CRUD. Okay, so CRUD is a very popular development word, which means CRUD, CRUD. It's acronym: create, read, update, delete. Okay, CRUD. So it's a very common acronym. So just bear in mind if somebody speaks the next time. So basically, with the help of AMP script functions, you can actually do all these kind of functions in data extensions. So you can create data extensions, you can update them, you can delete them. So what you are doing manually, you can take the help of AMP script over here functions, and you can do the same activities in data extension. Then what else you can do? Then you can also have certain functions like HTTP, with the help of which you can actually call external systems and integrate your or fetch the data from external systems. So with the help of APIs. So those kind of functions are also pre-built into Marketing Cloud list, wherein AMP script list, wherein you can use those pre-built functions and get your work done. Okay. So we'll start looking at it after some time. Once the slide are over, I'll start looking at it, small functions, and then we'll gradually come to a bigger use case. What is the syntax for language? The SAMP script, it's kind of a delimiter. So when you say delimiter, there are 3 different type of personalizations that are happening. One is simple personalization string. If you can see on the first one, that is a personalization string, and it basically talks about 2 sorry, percentages, and ends with 2 percentages, and whatever the string that you need to use, you need to insert it between them. So that is the syntax for a personalization string. Personalization string can be of 2 types. By the way, personalization string is system defined, as in you don't create it. AMP script you do, but personalization strings are by default there out of the box, and you need to just use it. So there could be 2 types of personalization string. One is the one that I've mentioned, like first name. So these are standard that you do that are based on your data source or data extension. So if the extension column name is first name, for example, then you can use percentage first name percentage in the email, and it will show you, display you at the runtime, it will display you the name of that particular record rather than the first name. So that is of attribute type, based on the attribute or data extension. Another one is system type. System is, there are pre-configured system default system attributes for personalization strings. So something like system date, those kind of things are pre-built. You can call those tags, use those tags to call those functions. So 2 types of personalization string, and it is embedded between your percentage. So that is personalization string, and it is very restricted in nature because it's just depends on data extension fields and your system fields. So there's no flexibility in that. Next come AMP script. So next 2 points that you're looking at is both are different type of AMP script. So AMP script first type is your inline. So if you see, if on the right hand side of second point, this function is there. Again, the nomenclature, the way syntax, it is kind of similar. It's just that we use equals to sign as well over here. So this is inline AMP script, which is can be utilized anywhere in the code, in the HTML code, or in the landing page, or in your mobile configuration. But you cannot declare or do any kind of logic inside this. You can only use functions, one function, that's it. So for example, if you see on the right hand side, the example that I have took, xt month numeric. Okay, so this is a function, not the exact syntax, but this is a function wherein if you utilize this function, it will give you the numeric value against a month. So for example, January, for January it will give you 1, February it will take you 2, March 3, like that. So pre-built function that I spoke about, 150 odd functions, it will give you the value that you're looking for, and you can, with the help of inline AMP script syntax, you can display that in one line. Next one is AMP script block. So now the AMP script block is the real one where you actually write logics and you declare variables, you set their values. So all those kind of things that happen in script, in AMP script block. So the second one, inline AMP script, you just simply type it and outputs the value and prints it on the screen or the email in that case. This one, not necessarily it can be seen on the email, oh sorry, email on the screen, correct, it was email. So how it looks like, so first one is where this is a basically way in AMP script to declare a variable and then set it, and it starts with percentage middle bracket and ends with that, if you see. So the syntax remains the same to beginning and end. Over here as well in inline AMP script, it remains the same, okay, in the end. So what in AMP script block, what you can do is you can set the variables, you can of course declare it first, then set it, do some kind of more granular or complex calculations inside, not mathematical only but logical calculations like if, loop, and all those things can be done over here inside, and then finally one single line can be outputted if you want. But if you don't want, nothing will get printed on the email. If you just simply type this, the one, then nothing will get printed on the email. But if you type this one, second inline AMP script, in that case it will print the results on the email or screen. Okay, so that was about syntax for all three types. Okay, we will use all three of them: personalization, inline, and AMP script. Okay, just a small glimpse of what is a variable is. It's used in AMP script blocks basically. So it's a placeholder which changes
Mhm.
the value. So every time it value changes, you need not to change, put that value, you can use the same variable. It becomes convenient while writing big programs. Okay, so that is what variable is. Variable, as the name suggests, the value keeps on changing. How do you actually declare a variable? Where this is the variable declaration, at the rate expiry date or at the rate member state. So we are declaring two variables, var. This is how you do that, with comma. Then next step is you set some values to that. So in this case, I've just simply set at the rate expiry date equals, let's say, this date, or at the rate member status is equal to platinum. So this is the way I'm actually setting value to that particular variable, in this case expiry date or member status. So this is how you do that. Another thing is you can directly set variables without even declaring them. So first line is, if you don't want, you can actually get away with that. You can only use line 2 and 3 and the code will work perfectly fine. But as a best practice, you're supposed to first declare the variables and then put values to them, set them basically. Okay, you should always declare them before setting it. And this is the nomenclature to and start a AMP script block in which you do logical operations, not the ones to simply output the result or print the result on the email. What next? So let's get on to the system now. Okay, so what I'll first of all I'll give you the link is to this developer.salesforce.com. Okay, so this is the best place to actually go for your all the AMP script related doubts and queries. Okay, basically it's a kind of a guide. It tells you what all AMP script functions are there and how to use it, and etc etc. So if you see, okay, so programmatic marketing content AMP script, so it gives you a really nice way of actually learning AMP script function by function, slowly and slowly. Okay, so we'll be referring this guide over here during our conversations, because I would like to actually talk about it. Certain functions, I don't remember certain functions, so I need to just use them from here, because syntax is pretty standard, it doesn't changes, but some of them will obviously see. So this is a reference for our sessions on AMP script. So let's get on to, so as I said, what we can do is we can actually display it on the email or on a landing page or on the SMS, but it happens on the runtime. So at the email, it will get published while the email is sent. On the landing page, once the landing page gets loaded onto the screen, then only the script will run and give you the result. Okay, so it happens on the runtime, execution time, depending on what platform or channel you're using. Either it's email or your the other one is your landing page, web. Okay, so what I've done is over here I've created two. Is this the one? Let me check. Two email templates basically. Not very good looking, but the two email templates which will actually be using us. We will be using that during the course of our presentation, so that I can actually teach you about what all is required as a part of personalization AMP script and your blocks, AMP script blocks. So don't get too much bogged down with all the functions that have been mentioned on the right hand side. What I've done is I've just simply created a web page and got an HTML block inserted. And if you want to see on the left hand side, these are different functions that I've actually worked upon. Okay, so we'll do it again together so that you are aware what is the syntax, how it works. Okay, we'll do it together. So for example, remember I told you about personalization strings. Okay, so this is from where you can actually, at least on the email studio, you can directly choose those values from here and it'll get populated. So for example, these are the profile attributes and system attributes. I told you there could be two things, profile and system. Profile is the one which you get it from the data source that you've actually aligned with. So in this case, a data extension. So this data extension which I've been pointing to has got email address and phone number. So two attributes I can actually populate. If I click over here, see, automatically gives me this phone number. Yeah, since we are going to functions, I'm not taking you through any fancy email template. Just for the functions specifically, I'm just using a basic template. So phone number. So what it'll do is on the runtime, it will publish the phone number data from that particular data extension. Okay, next one, email address, same way. So email address anyways here. We can do that over here, email address. Then you have got, so these are the two profile attributes. What could be the other kind of attributes? System attributes. So see, subscriber key, for example. So if I put it over here, okay, I should have used this subscriber key. See, this is standard. It will automatically come over here and will pull the values that is aligned with that. Then there's next one that is also there, X months. Okay, let's go and see on the runtime what are the values that they are displaying. So what I'll do is I'll quickly save this, click on next, point it to a, okay, a class function is throwing an error. So it's trying to do something with this and it's not, yes, so this is not working right now. Save it back. First name, email. So actually there was no value. So let me point it out. So I need to choose a correct data source. It seems these, so I'll click over here, choose new data source, and I'll point it to that data extension which I'm referring for preview. So it'll give me accurate results over here. I think I'm using custom script population 1. I think I'm using this one only. Let me say okay, and I'll save it. I'll go to next. Okay, so right now, which is this? I'm just wondering where am I pointing to? That is what I'm pointing to. Okay, so let's get back to our content. Let me, there's no phone number field it seems, hence it is not getting published. So if you see on the data extension, I'll just open a data extension over here. Where is my data extension? So if you see, these are the columns of that particular data extension and phone number was not there. So hence it is not taking any values from there. So I was, let me, yeah. So these are the, since I've chosen new data, so let me say put store ID over here instead of that. So that should actually work. Store ID and percentage store ID, name of that exact column. So see, this is the number 123. So we are able to actually render it on runtime. This is the email address. These two things I put from that personalization string and it's actually reflecting the same value over here. Okay, so this was about personalization string that you can actually in Email Studio, you can use it directly from here. But what I was told was you generally, as soon as you get a script, you get onto the HTML side of things and actually copy paste that and start working on it. You tend not to use this. That's what my understanding was from your thing, correct? So this was about personalization string, which is very simple, standard, out of the box, two things, system and your data extension or data source. Next is we'll move on to the other ones. Let's say X month. We'll see what is there in X, this one. We'll see what is the output. Yeah. So this is again a function. Did you see that? September, name, month. And just in case, if you are not sure about any function, you just copy it and search it over there. The link that I'll send it across. But for your perception, it's developer.salesforce.com and search for AMP script. You will get that link. X month, simple. So that is how you need to do that. There's no function coming out like that. X month, yes. Okay. So this is how you search. So there are, like as I said, 150 functions. You won't be remembering. Nobody is expecting you to remember. But the more you'll use, you'll remember those functions and you can utilize those in your code. Then this is something, our standard ones. What about this one? Now it's very pretty
Yes.
straightforward. The nomenclature of functions are pretty straightforward, to be honest. So don't think too much before speaking. Sorry, because the names of the functions are pretty obvious. Now, this system date basically I'll give you only if this works. It's taking too much time. Marketing cloud plus internet, double whammy. Okay, I'll go back and again try that. It's taking some time to load. Yes, this is the print that I've got. Okay, so that is again
Yep.
inbuilt function that you can utilize and do some word work around it and all those things. Let's go
Like
back and
like
use that.
like the block and
Yes, I'm there.
script had two square brackets in the percentages enclosed in the percentage symbol, right? So the inline
Mm-hmm.
amp script is has the equal to instead of the blocks, but it is in a single. It
Correct.
must be in a single line, right?
Yes, this thing is you're recommending. It's missing. It was missing.
Yeah,
Let me go back and correct it so that. Thank you.
no problem.
Okay, so ending and starting for each AMP script will remain the same. In inline one, it will be like this, ending and again starting and ending. And for the block one, it will be like this and like this. Correct? So it will be same. So thanks for pointing that out. Now, so this was the month function. It will give you the month. This function will give you today's date and time. In fact, systems date and time, both of it. We saw that. Then what is next? There are some other functions I also wanted to talk to you about instead of just talking about this. Okay, concatenate. Who doesn't know a meaning of concatenate over here?
Just a small question: is amp script case sensitive?
Insensitive.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, good question. I missed it informing about that in the beginning. It's insensitive, so it doesn't matter if you see cap C or small c. So that's okay. That's more easy, isn't it? If it is case sensitive, you got to be very careful, and it's time taking because you have to debug. Sometimes or the other, you'll make a spelling mistake, at least in terms of sensitivity. So yeah, concatenate the two parameters that has been passed. Okay, if you can see, this is pretty similar to Excel functions, correct? Concatenate first parameter that you pass and this is the second parameter, and for I'll come back to that, but I have declared a variable over here. So for your purpose, I can simply write it hello world as well if I want. Okay, so it will simply concatenate that same functions as the way Excel works. Okay, I'll just save it and go back in the run mode. I hope you're getting what I'm trying to show in terms of running it every time going back and forth. So
Hello,
yeah,
world. You.
hello world to you.
Yep.
Yeah, this is what it is printing. That if I want it in a more better format,
Com-
just add one more comma over here and add. So it will be space basically to add space. So it looks better. Why it's not okay? And probably there's something wrong with that. My understanding of that tag. So in this actually concatenate you cannot. I was thinking of something else actually.
Will
My bad.
space work after the D of hello world or before the to
Will
you?
what will?
If we keep a space before the T on the second part, right? Then will
Space
it
like this?
no space in the comma in the inverted commas in the value before the T? Will
Before
it
the
count the
T.
white space or not?
Where is over here like this? You're saying?
Yeah. Yeah, so I think it counts the white spaces.
Yes, it does. So basically, when I say count, anything inside this, it'll count. That's it. If white spaces is provided, white spaces, if anything inside this couldn't, because it's constant for it. Okay, so this was about concatenation. Then we are talking about format. Format, what do you do that? Format this date. Okay, now remember we used that function now, which was giving us current system date and time, and we want it in this format. Okay, so this is something like ratta maar rahe hain, in the sense that ये ऐसा काम करता है, you have to learn it this way. So there's no logic behind it, to be honest. ऐसा ही built in है. So that is what might be a bit boring, but yeah, you need to know this. There are some of the very basic functions that you should be aware. So see, it has done it this way. So initially it was printing this the whole time. Along with that, now I don't want it. I have only asked it to print the date. That is the format that I have provided. Okay, and beware of using dates in formatting. So dates are always tricky. My experience, dates are always tricky to play with if you are playing with formats. So sometimes it works, sometimes if you know in Excel, if you utilize it, date formatting is very difficult. It's complex as well compared to other kind of formattings. Text to, for example, number to text, if you want to change it, date becomes a pain. So date is always, you should be very careful if you're formatting the date. So we'll go back. What is the next one?
Pankaj, is there a way to format the time, right? Because the system time calls the seconds as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, yes, there is one. I want to figure it out because I heard about that function. I haven't utilized it. So yes, the function is there. We can go time formatting script. I'll find it out. So this is that bunch of documentation around it. So for example, format now, this is the one that we used. Okay, see a different one. This is the one that we, not exactly, but this is a usage we did in a different format. Time. See, this is for time and with US encoding, I think. Yeah, so it's available. Has anybody heard of Stack Exchange? Stack Exchange is one of the very good place in general, but specific for AMP queries. So it's a good place if you're stuck somewhere, you want, because you will be creating functions, sorry, codes. You won't be using simple one-liners, to be honest, in your day-to-day life. If you are working in the enterprise environments. So in that case, you would be requiring, you will be stuck somewhere. So for AMP script, Stack Exchange is the place to get your technical queries answered. Okay, and Stack Exchange is a very weird thing because I tried using it a couple of times. Until your question is specific, actually it won't be allowed to be submitted. So if you write a very vague question, how to learn LAMP script, for example, very vague, how to learn AMP script, they won't actually post it on the board. So if you got to be specific with what exactly you're asking. If it is confusing, they won't actually post it. Apart from a Stack Exchange, how many of you are on social networking, professional social networking sites?
As in, like, we are all on LinkedIn and
Okay, so LinkedIn is one of them. Twitter for professional usage. I mean, to be honest, I think I mentioned it. Twitter is heavily used in Salesforce world. In fact, a lot of new products that are coming on, a lot of surveys and all. Actually, people put it on Twitter. So professionally, if you use Twitter, Twitter can also be a channel, very good channel in Salesforce world. I'm talking about. So the reason I asked was there are two person in AmScript world which are very famous and MVPs. MVP is most valued professional. So in Salesforce world, based on how much you help the community, how much knowledge you hold, how much charisma, or as you say, influencer in today's social media world, influencer, how much bigger influencer you are granted an MVP status, most valued professional. So there are two people called Elliot Harper and Adam Spig. These two people, I'll mention their name. Do follow them on Stack Exchange, on or LinkedIn, on Twitter. These are good guys to follow for AMScript if you want to dwell further into this path of AMScript learning. These are the two MVPs from Salesforce side who conduct sessions. Their videos are there. They answer hell lot of queries on Stack Exchange, and you will learn a lot if you follow them. If you want to learn AMScript to an extent that you should be confident of doing it. So Adam Spring and Elite Harper. I'll mention their names, but these are the two key figures that are very prevalent in AMScript world.
sensor.
Okay, so yes, moving on. Another function is proper case. So yes, please, that's what proper case is. Just like Excel, functions are self-explanatory. I mean, need not to do anything. It's just the syntax that you need to take care of. That's it. So where is your proper case? See, p caps and rest all small. That is a proper casing for everybody's understanding. That's how proper case works. You can do against lowercase, uppercase, all those kind of data transformation you can do with the help of these standard functions, out of the box standard functions that are there. What else is there? Then we wanted to see format. Okay, we did this formatting, proper case we did. Okay, lookup. Okay, this is something a bit of complex, but this is what you will be using a lot if you do use AMP script. So basically you're looking up, you're extracting a value from a data extension. Okay, so see over here, how do we read that? Again, lookup, you're looking up. Lookup is I think lookup is a function in Excel also, I'm not sure, I think I've heard it, but anyways, this is the name of the parameters that you are passing. This is the name of data extension. This is the column that you want to extract against a customer ID whose value is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That is how you read it. This is the data extension from which you need to look up the values. This is the column that you want to look up. This is the value of customer ID, the record. Basically, these two give you the record. That customer ID is equal to this. So if I want to translate it in SQL, it will read like select email address from this data extension where customer ID equals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's the lookup for you. Got the syntax? Lookup. Okay. So this is the name of data extension from which I need to extract the data. Okay. So in this case, it was Pankaj Ji. Let me search some other one. Okay. Let me do for, let's say this one. Okay. Comma. Next parameter is what do you want, which column you want to fetch. So let's say I want to fetch first name. Okay. First name. I'll try with a single column because I think it works single column as well. Double column, single column both work, but let me just, then where now which record you want to pull. So customer ID equals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if I go to my, let's say this is the primary key, or email address equal to this. Let's say store ID. Store ID is equal to 1, 2, 3. So ORE ID equals 1, 2, 3. Was it? How do we close it? Equals. Okay, let me save it. So were you able to follow when I was writing?
It will call the value corresponding in the first name to the store ID 123, right?
Correct.
Which is the first name.
Only the first name, right?
Correct. First name. Okay. So let me just save it and move it. What happened? Why nothing is getting populated? I think the syntax is right. There's nothing wrong with the syntax. Let me save it and then. Okay. Yeah. Marketing cloud for you. Okay. This was my name. Look up. Let me go and validate first name. Okay. Store ID is 1, 2, 3. My name, first name is Pankaj. That's what it picked up. Understood?
Yeah, to an extent.
Can
I'm sorry.
we fetch two value at in one query? Means
So
I want
that
first name. Means I want first name in last name. So we need to write
correct.
a separate query for that.
So for that, we need to explore the function further. So the straightforward way is what I gave you 4 parameters. But if you want to check, you can actually do that checking as well in the same site. So that is what I'm doing. I haven't utilized it that way. Let me just check it out for you. The example doesn't say so, but there should be something around it. It
Okay.
only provides 4 parameter for now. But I mean, we need to check. So let me check for you. In that lookup function, can we? I mean, basically, we are trying to fetch multiple values. Correct?
Okay. Yeah.
Let me just check for you. But there would be a way. Okay. If not this function,
Okay.
there would be some other functions. Okay, I'll just check. Yeah. So who else said kind of?
So basically the lookup syntax would be like lookup, then the DE name, then the column which needs to
Correct.
be fed, and then the second
Correct.
column from which we are matching the value for the first column.
Correct. No, so not matching. I mean, it's matched actually, but basically ये तो तुम्हारा data extension हो गया. So that is okay, clear. ये इस हमको first name वाला column का value चाहिए. Correct. This
Yeah.
is अब now you need to come to specific which record. You told column now over here. Abhi we need to come to which record. So record will be identified if I match give a certain specific parameter to pass for exact record. So store ID is a unique one. So store ID is 1, 2, 3 like that. So if you
Okay.
remember
Only the
SQL,
record. So in this
sorry,
data extension, customer data AMP script data extension store ID must be the primary key since it would be unique, right?
correct, correct. So don't worry if you're still you have 0% doubt or 1% or whatever, just try it out. Okay. And I mean, with functions, it's like if you won't use it, you'll forget it, to be honest. If you don't use those functions next time in your engagement with your client, you will forget it. So you have to come back to Google or this page, developer.salesforce.com, and search a relevant function for your usage. Okay. So that's simple. Shouldn't fret too much about it. So we are
Yeah.
done with lookup, which is basically a SQL query to select. Now this is lookup rows. I'm just making some difference so that it's easily visible once you execute that. Okay, this was supposed to, okay, this was not. So this lookup, basically it's lookup rows gives you value number, or sorry, rows for a data extension, more than one. So if you see, I just go back to function lookup rows. But right now, for some reason, it was not returning the intended result. Now it was not failing either. So lookup rows 1, 2, and 3. So it gives me a row set from a data extension. Basically, a row set is number of rows set. So let's say if it is, if I go back to this function, let me go back to main function. So last one we did one row. This is variance of a row. Okay, lookup rows. So last one was lookup one individual record will come because it's unique. This will throw multiple. Okay, it could be multiple. So in that case, if that is the lookup thing is there, you will be utilizing it for looping and all. It's not displaying right now over here. It's just displaying, if you see over here, if it's just displaying me simple name, this one. So basically, you need to utilize it while using some for functions, for example. So count the number of rows in that row set and then run the loop as many times as the rows are there. So those kind of functions which you'll see in.
One more doubt coming from us. So as in lookup and lookup rows, the last value is static, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So what
Yes,
happens if there are like 1,000 records and we don't know the value to each store ID or each customer ID? So and how to relate how to relate an email to that, right? If I am getting an email, I should get my customer ID or store ID.
Dynamic one.
Yeah, a dynamic one, right? If you are getting an email, you should get your store ID or customer ID.
so there are two parts to your question. First of all is how to fetch 1,000 records. If it, there has to be some criteria. So that logic needs to come from your business logic. This is the business logic. So in this case, for example, gender equals gender. You put it over here, gender male. This logic has to be there, and there would be multiple records for not in this example, this one. So let me put it so that it's kind of clear. Gender equals male. Okay. So now this is a business logic that you need to know. I mean, nobody can tell you. This has to come from business side, from your understanding. Second part is how do you utilize it now? Let's say there are 100 records that came out in which gender equals male, for example. Yeah, in this data extension. How do you
Okay.
utilize that? These functions don't work in individual capacity. You need to put it across with a loop, for loop.
Okay.
Okay, so now how it will work is, for example, you have fetched, for simplicity's sake, I'm just giving example. 10 records were returned with gender equals male from this data extension. Okay, now you first of all check as a best practice how many number of records are there. If it is more than zero, sorry, then run a for loop and you traverse each record, each of those 10 records, and then do some personalization on that. So that's how in totality it works. There is no use of this function in individual basis, to answer your question. So basically we'll come to that. To answer your question, we'll come to that, but it has to be clubbed with some other functions to be useful. Got it? So since this is the initial part wherein I'm making sure you're aware of the functions, so that once you make a composite block for AMP script, you can actually relate to what this function was. So that is the reason, but there's no use of it working individually. You won't do anything out of it. Okay, row count. Now if you see this function, what it does is it's counting row count. It's counting the number of rows, as the name is evidently making it clear, shouting now counting of rows. So now I'm using this function, the top one, inside this. So now see
Okay.
row count. So it will give me the row count for this one. In this case, it might come to one only, but it will give me the row count for this one, which the answer would be one in this case. Got it? And
Okay. So
now
it's a
this will be
nested function.
correct. I've put it nested. You can actually do nesting as well in this functions. So that's perfectly fine. Just be
So is
aware of
there any
the syntax. Mhm.
so is there any limit of using functions simultaneously? Like right now you're using
Uh,
two functions, so we can use
Basically
more than.
nesting. You're saying nesting.
Yes, yes.
You can do that. That's there's no such as such limit per se, but then I mean you cannot use more than couple of it. It will become very difficult for you to understand, but you can use it.
Mhm.
Nesting. So apart from 2 or 3 level, it becomes very difficult to actually comprehend as well. So try
Okay.
not to do that. A better way, a better best practice would be to, let's say for example, you want to do this 2 level, okay? You want to
Mhm.
do 2 more levels, for example. So take this value in a variable, row count value in a variable, and then
Mhm.
put that variable into that next function, and then do that. So you can try and break it up like that. So that would be a better way of doing it instead of doing it in one one one. It becomes very complex.
Okay.
And always remember from a perspective of uh, this, somebody will be reading this code after you have left or after you are done with it. Somebody will be maintaining this code. So for a maintenance perspective, it will become very difficult for somebody to actually, if you do nesting so much now, you see the comments, and as a practice I'm assuming you guys are doing that code commenting and formatting of the code and whatever script that you have got, you do that, no?
Yes,
Blocks
yes,
and
I
Yes,
do.
all.
right.
Yeah,
Yes.
see, correct. So yeah, I mean, thanks for saying yes, because I assume kind of that you were doing it. Okay,
Mhm.
what is there after this? So I'll just quickly remove this and I'll show you the count wala thing as well. So this is that one number last. So this were a couple of functions that I wanted to take you through. What is there? Okay, there's something in the beginning. So this is an AMP script block. And till now we were doing what inline thing. Sorry, yeah, inline. This is the first time we'll be talking about block. So see what I have done. I have declared the variable. Okay, var1, var2. I have set the variables now. For this one, I'm assigning a value Pankaj, and for the second one, I'm assigning the value 12. Sorry, and then with the help of inline, and I've closed this. So this never gets printed on your email or mobile or your landing page. Anything within this never gets printed. Only things gets printed are this AMP script inline one. So what I do is I call this function v and actually print the values. Okay, so it should var1 is Pankaj. So I should say hello. So you'll see the results printed like this. So this is the usage of variables. Basically, I wanted to show in AMP script block how to use variables. Okay, so I've declared 2 variables, var1, var2. I've set values. I'm setting values to that. These values could be dynamic as well, which we'll see later on. So this will be variable 1. I'm setting value Pankaj onto this value. So basically, I'm assigning Pankaj onto this variable. Okay, variable is a placeholder. Remember we spoke about, and can be dynamic. It can change later on. So variable is just like a placeholder in which I assign Pankaj. Another placeholder I've assigned 12, and I'm printing that value. That's it over here with the help of this function AMP script inline. Understood now? This one.
Khali
So this
Pankaj.
is the one that got printed. Hello Pankaj. So Pankaj was the variable in which I stored a placeholder, a container in which I had put Pankaj as a value, and hello was anyways I just mentioned it manually. So hello Pankaj. I'll go back again and just to give you so that you can relate. Yes, this is the line. Can I increase the size of this block?
Way to call dynamic images from data extensions, like images
Yes, you
based on the
can call. So images based on, sorry, you broke in between.
images based which are stored in the data extension and which may be called dynamically. Like for you, there will be an image for a beer, and for me, it will be a glass of water.
Yes, you can do that. You can do that. There's a way, and it's pretty simple. Yeah. Okay. So this was about AMP script, simple AMP script block, wherein I'm just publishing the value with the help of this inline AMP script function, and this is the value. These are the basic functions, some transformational, some mathematical, some related to data extension lookup, for example, that I wanted to touch base on so that you are also aware. So now that we have some kind of basic command on how it looks like, what it means, let's go and do some a real block. Okay, a real use case. Because use case is that basically what you want to render in the email is my nearest store location. So if you know, if you might get emails by certain companies where they tell you this is the nearest store, my our store nearest to your location, correct? That kind of emails you might have got. So this is that use case wherein this email will tell you, depending on the store that you are tied with, which is your nearest store. Okay, or which, correct? So I've set two types of data extension for this, just to show you. This is first one, which has got customer data, first name, last name, email address, and the store. So this is my store 123. Okay, and I'll show you the other data extension which is related to this, in which store ID is there and the city or country name is also there. So I'll show you that as well. So store ID, which is a unique value over here, and the city and state. Okay. So now with the help of these two data extensions, I will try and fetch value of city and state. Okay. You can be more creative with address and all, but I thought for the simplicity, I'll just fetch these two values. So technically I'm fetching these two values. Okay. So we'll see in that email and it will tell you the city and state for that. So if I go back to my example, okay, this is the first block. Okay. And what it is doing is it's declaring first. See, these are the 3-4 variables which is it has declared. Store ID, first name, last name, full name. Okay, simple declaration. Agreed? Then I'm setting values in that. Okay.
Okay.
So this I have done simply declaring the variables. This I'm setting values into that. Remember last time I did absolute values. This time I'm doing dynamic values. Store ID, first name, last name. This is being picked from the data extension to which I'll be actually sending the email against. So my store ID dynamically will be 123 because that's the only record I remember. So this eventually this variable will have the value of 123, or first name is Pankaj in that record, in that data extension. So the F name variable will hold value as Pankaj. So this is dynamically we are doing. So for every subscriber, it will be different, of course. So hence, this personalization will come into picture.
And we haven't declared the data extension before declaring the variables, right? So how it is getting to know that the store ID first name, last name correspond to which data extension?
Okay, so the data extension, we need not to declare the data extension over here. So the one, if you are relating to that example that we spoke about, that was one single function which was doing something different. Over here, we are doing something different. So don't relate to them. And to answer your question, where it will come from, it will come at the send time when you send that email against that data extension. So right now, if you
Okay, so we
preview
are
this, so if you preview this, I'll be previewing again a particular record in a data extension, and that data extension will be the one in which these three values exist. So it will pick it dynamically.
yeah, so beforehand we are not mentioning that these properties are from which data extension and where the variables which we are corresponding them to. We are declaring it
Correct.
at the end while running the program.
I thought what you said was, so we are not declaring data extension at all, to be honest. No mention of data extension.
Yeah.
But
So the question,
but since,
yeah,
Mhm.
okay. So my question is that the first name, last name, and such properties could be,
Mhm.
common in multiple data extensions, right?
Okay, correct, could be.
So yeah. So my question is that how would it come to know which particular data extension we are referring to? Because if the column names are same, it could,
Mhm.
there could be a discrepancy while fetching
But
the data.
okay, but tell me, any email that you are sending out of Marketing Cloud, you are sending it on a data extension, isn't it?
Yes, correct.
On one data extension at a time, correct?
Yes, yes, correct.
So that's the match. So the name of these column names, store ID, first name,
Mhm.
last name, has to match that data extension. Otherwise, it won't work.
Yes.
Got it?
Okay. Yeah. Got it. Yes. Yes.
And another best practice, now that you have asked a question, I got reminded of. There would be instances that where you won't fetch a value. There's no value in the data extension for that particular record. Could be, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So there's always a good
Yep.
practice to put if and else thing as well. So in case there's no value, blank value, then you take it out by saying, like, for example, customer name is not there. For example, I'm just not related to this. I'm just giving you a general example. Dear customer, you write. So if you use personalization string as dear first name, but the first name is missing from that data extension, is blank. Okay, it shouldn't be.
Mm-hmm.
There has to be a default value in the data extension. You can handle it at the data extension level as well. So in the data extension, while creation, there's a default value option while creating a field. You should mention customer over there. So if it is blank, automatically system will populate customer instead of putting blank, which is very bad if it goes out at blank. But in over here as well, in the code as well, you can do that by mentioning another line. If you find any value in that, then print dear first name. Otherwise, put dear customer like that. So it can be handled both ways, but as a best practice you should do it at data extension level so that you don't have to do that. But if you're doing an enterprise scenario, you're not aware data extension with somebody has done it or not done it, so it's better to take care of the code level as well. Got it? So now the next statement that is I've put is I'm just concatenating it. That's it. I'm not doing anything. So I've created a variable over here called full name, and I'm using that full name to get the concatenate the value of first name and last name, and then I'm storing the value in that. So Pankaj Namdev would be the value in this full name variable. Okay, understood? Then I'm just printing that hello percentage v at the rate full name. So I'm just printing this value, this variable. Okay. The next step is your preferred store settings as of. So this is basically a date thing. So what I'm telling it to the customer is your preferred store settings as of today, for example. And we have done this function. Now is today's date, and then you're formatting it in a certain way that you can
And
actually Google it.
what does the one in the bracket mean?
So one is actually, I think it's an optional thing. If I put remove one, and that is not relevant. I mean, depending on which syntax you use, pretty standard. So you can remove it. It's an optional thing. One.
So now basically this is the system now, right? Which is being
Correct.
called from the system. Yeah.
Correct.
And what happens if we declare a variable which matches with the system? Will it take a
मतलब
precedence? Like मैंने ऊपर a variable now करके एक set किया और now तो
okay,
already एक
that's it.
system
Then
variable.
it should throw a syntax error because those are standard keywords, reserved keywords. You cannot use them. Things like if, else, these are standard keywords in any scripting language. सभी में होता है. So if you use that, it'll throw an error. You're not
Okay.
supposed to use it. Basically. Okay. So now what it says is this is my as of this date your preferred stored settings as of this date. अब we are coming to the real logic. तो ये थोड़ा सा complex है. Just have a look and try and be with me. If you're stuck or you're getting left, let me know. Stop me. Again, I'm opening a AMP script block. Okay, so that is an AMP script block. That is okay. What I'm doing is I'm setting a variable called rows, which I've declared up over there, and I'm looking at all the rows. Okay, see, look up rows. So it will return me more than one answer or rows, basically a row set as we like to call it. In this case it is simple one record, hence it will give you one, but it will return you in real life, it will return you more than one records. Okay, now what is store id? Store id. Okay, so this is okay. So now, okay, no, in this case, I'm sorry, my bad. In this case it will be only one record. See, because store id, what is store id? Store id is unique in a data extension, correct? So store id would be 123. Remember the store id?
Yeah.
Where is that? So this
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
store id 1 2. So store id, it will be unique all the time. I mean, this is for simplicity's sake I have done it. It could be more than that. So store id is 123. So I need to look the number of rows, get the data set, whatever it is. Now what we are doing is we are coming to the next one. Okay, we are again setting the rows one. So this I need just okay, this function row. Okay, what it does is basically row, this is the function. Again, if you are confused or stuck at any point, go back to this documentation and you can have a look. So over here, yeah, this line. So what is doing is it's taking the rows in this. For example, if it was more than one, so let's say two rows are there, it will assign the first row to this. Again, we are updating the row wala variable. So first wala row, because of this variable, it will take the first row out of the two and assign it to this row variable again, overwrite it basically again. So over here I'm getting two values of a store id. I'm just taking an example. In our real case over here it's only one, but if it gets two values or something like that, then in that case it's a different issue. But our case, for simplicity's sake, what I have done is I have set overwritten this row with the help of this function. So this wala function returned me one row. I'm taking the first one over here and assigning it over here. So this row again get updated. This was first time, this is second time. So basically what I'm trying to do is I've got one row set, I'm assigning it to my row, this variable again. Now after that it becomes a bit simple. Now what I'm doing is these two variables, again I'm setting these two variables with field. So in this row, get me the city and assign it to the city one. In this row, which is mentioned over here, get me the state and assign it to state variable. And the documentation, again, if you want to go in detail, basically it's field function. What it does is in a row set, it gives you a value against a particular column. Field, where is field? I've opened it. Yes, field. Run returns the specified field in a specified row. So ऊपर से निकल गया कि कुछ कुछ समझ में आया,
थोड़ा थोड़ा
डाउट
बहुत
आया? ठीक है.
Could you explain the at row equal to row bracket at rows वो वाला function again?
Okay, so this row, what this function does is, right now what is the value in this first data, एक line is the value in this, correct, from store and
Yes.
script. So what would be, let's go and see that this data record would be there. ठीक है, this row. Now
The whole row, correct?
correct, the
Not
whole
just
row,
one
correct,
value.
whole, yes,
Yes.
whole row.
Okay.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then again I do use this function as row, okay, and it points to the first one. So it takes this value, anyways there is one value in this right now, okay, one record,
Yes.
and it points to one. So basically this function would be more helpful if there are multiple sets, and then I can say give me second wala or third wala, but in this case we are having only one row, so this becomes a bit redundant and not useful and probably confusing. But what I'm essentially doing is, from this row which has got one record, as again assigning the first one onto the row only. So if that makes sense, हमारे केस में थोड़ा सा redundant है because we have only one set of row, but essentially what it is doing is, if I remove this, the system should also work. We'll try that, we'll see. Okay, so what it's,
So for
if I
multiple
remove this,
values, if we had multiple values, correct? So
correct.
if we would haven't written comma one, right? So we would have to just write there that it should point to the subsequent row, correct? Because if we
Subsequent, no,
write
so
comma one, it would only point to the first one.
correct. Okay. A bigger context to this is, you can utilize this function. You're right. So it has to be 1, 2, 3 all the time. Okay. It will point to
Yes.
that particular rows, the number of rows in that at the rate rows initial. But bigger use case is,
Yes.
you can use for function, okay,
Hmm.
and run it
Hmm.
on the loop. So row 1, you do something on that row.
Plus one.
Row 2, you do something on that. So that is the bigger
So row
context of
plus.
that. Correct. So hence it can be
Yes.
useful. Understood?
Yes.
Is
Yes.
everyone with
Yes.
me right now? Okay. So
Mhm.
I've removed that line which was actually kind of confusing and was used in a bigger context. So what I'm doing is, if you see row, एक row है मेरे पास, I want city का value out of it, और city का value इसमें डाल दिया.
then you will have to change the field. You will have to change at the rate row to rows because we have not defined the variable row.
Oh, okay, yes, you're right. Thanks for pointing that. There was a छोटा mistake हो जाता है. Right. So let me utilize that only instead of rows का row हो गया. ठीक है. I'm not touching it. थोड़ा सा risk लेते हैं, करते हैं. ठीक है. So I will say where at the race क्या था, row. Actually it should be rows over here यार. Simple है.
Yeah.
ठीक है. Okay. It automatically saves, so that's good. Okay, so now what I'm doing is, out of that single row, city वाला column का value उठा के city में डाल दो. That is what this field वाला thing does, function does. More information over here. A specified field in a specified row.
Okay. Particular row के लिए.
ठीक है, that is this. So this function, what it does is, give me from this row set, which has got row में 3 columns थे. City वाले column का value निकाल के इसमें डालो. Understood?
Yes.
Same goes with state as well over here. रो में स्टेट कॉलम की वैल्यू निकाल के स्टेट में डालो. So now I have got values in this case, Bangalore and Karnataka का KR. These values are there in those two variables, city and state. Understood?
Out in the at the rate rows function, it will look up the rows from the store AMScript data extension.
Correct.
It will go to the column store ID, and it will look up the value of the variable store ID which find above. So
Correct.
we define the value of the variable to
1 to 3.
no,
1, 2, 3.
it's store ID is the column, right? Because in you can see the variable value we have defined it as the DE column.
So this is store ID. So store
Yeah.
ID, yes.
So it will call all the store IDs specifically.
No,
See
this
the
won't call.
okay. For a better understanding, can you just call the variable store ID as well?
Over here.
In the below, right where you are calling all the values.
Here.
Yeah. No,
Store
not
ID.
here. Yeah. See,
Like
we
that
have
one, 3 over
defined.
here.
No, no, no. नहीं नहीं मतलब सॉरी एक्शन मैं हिंदी में बोल लेता हूँ। हमने
चलेगा।
स्टोर आईडी वेरिएबल डिफाइन किया है, ठीक है।
करेक्ट।
हाँ, तो जो स्टोर आईडी वेरिएबल की वैल्यू है वो कितने वैल्यूज एक साथ कॉल करेगी, मतलब अभी वी हैव लाइक ओनली वन रो, इट्स 1 2 3, बट इफ देयर आर लाइक 4 5 6 7 8 9, विल इट कॉल एवरी ईच ऑफ दोज वैल्यूज इन द लुकअप रोज वन?
इस केस में नहीं, बिकॉज इट्स इंडिविजुअल, बिकॉज स्टोर आईडी एक ही होगा एनी पॉइंट फॉर अ पर्टिकुलर रिकॉर्ड। तो एक डेटा एक्सटेंशन है, फॉर एग्जांपल 10 रिकॉर्ड है, सो इट विल ट्रेवर्स ऑल द रिकॉर्ड्स। ईमेल 10 लोगों को ईमेल जाना है 10 रिकॉर्ड्स में फॉर एग्जांपल, सो एवरी टाइम द स्टोर आईडी वैल्यू वुड बी यूनिक। 10 टाइम्स 10 बार होगा ये।
ओके।
ओके, वैल्यू वुड बी यूनिक।
So is there time to just add one more record to the DE, and you can just make us go through both the emails in the preview section in both the cases,
ठीक है,
like
करते हैं, पहले इसको कर लेते हैं, फिर विल ट्राई
yeah.
दैट स्टोर आईडी। Okay, so now that was the end of this block wherein I was getting the row, adding the value from that row city into city and state variable, and then basically at the end of it publishing it. Okay, now let's save it, which is automatically saved. I'll do next. Value object property name city. Just let me look. So it says system data row property name. I think we have removed that value. That's why it's creating some issue, because I've tried before coming onto the call. I tried this code. So let's see. Let's try and debug. So it is throwing error because of this, because it's not showing any value. Store ID. Let me just try and go back to our previous version. Store ID. We are doing store ID over here. Concatenation. This is fine. Add set at the rate. At the rate store ID. Okay, so store ID, and then at the rate store id spelling, lookup rows. Let's see, that is the error again. Invalid object property name, something to do with city. Says so city state. Okay, I think we haven't declared city in variable, that's why it's throwing some issue, but let me do that again.
I don't think that must be an issue, like you can directly
Yeah,
set the
correct,
variables.
that is what even I'm thinking, but let me do that.
I think it's because of a single record, it's taking time,
It's
taking
because
that.
no, but because it was running before I was checking that, so it was running. So we removed that line that is posing some problems. So that's what I'm trying to just.
Is this AMP script punctuation sensitive? Because I can see that there is no space after the comma before add store ID.
Where is that?
Could it
No, it's
below
case
this
insensitive.
section?
By the way, case insensitive.
No, but yeah, in this line, store AMP script, comma store ID, comma add store ID, set at rows. There I can see there is one
And
space missing before add.
this one, not that one. I'm
Okay.
just trying to, probably it's something to do with the I'm pretty sure it's something to do with that line that we had removed when we said we'll try and just check it out. So what we did was we had made it rows over here. We'll revert back and we'll see once it's working. We'll reverse track, and then the line was to,
Set
okay, we were
row.
using, yes, we were declaring rows, correct? That function,
We had declared
row wala function. We had used row wala function.
Think it's because in general that lookup rows calls like each a value of the DE, right? So if we are setting and you have referenced in the city one to match all rows where city column to the city variable. So I don't think it might be able to carry. It might be a syntax error. So you just have.
सिंटैक्स, आई डोंट थिंक सिंटैक्स एरर दूसरे का एरर मारता है, टू बी ऑनेस्ट। सिंटैक्स एरर बता देगा कि ये फंक्शन में ये प्रॉब्लम है, कुछ तो मिसिंग है, ब्रैकेट और ऑल, ये इट्स समथिंग टू विद, या
जनरली अगर लुकअप रोज बहुत सारी वैल्यूज कॉल करता है, ठीक है, तो अगर सिटी वेरिएबल में वो अगर सब वैल्यूज एक साथ स्टोर नहीं कर पाएगा, इट वुड ओनली स्टोर द वैल्यू ऑफ अ स्पेसिफिक रिकॉर्ड, राइट? सो
row set comma one. Okay.
was it row set, whatever the variable is. So in this case it will be rows, comma 1, and then we were setting it to row. So first line, yes, let me see. Okay, so it seems we need to actually mention in that row first variable, this one. So it's whatever values is recommending, we have to actually traverse it with the help of this function. You cannot directly use this row in the field. So you have to use this function in order to translate it into one first row and then do that. Understood where we
Can we
were?
nest and do directly that?
Yes,
What we
ma'am.
were trying earlier?
Can we?
Can we nest
Inside what? Tell me. We'll try.
inside the row function?
Okay, so you're saying inside, I'll
The
put
row
this whole
variable,
thing.
sorry. Yep.
I'll put, should be okay.
So that what was I was trying to say, that
What?
okay, lookup rows calls multiple records, and we were setting the value of a variable of multiple records, right?
You have to
So
force to
One.
we
We
have
have to
to,
come back to one.
yeah, we had to force him to just look up
the
only for
first
the
row.
first record or the second record, or
Even though, but I was actually wondering, just say store ID would be unique every time, so there would be only one record at any instance,
Hmm.
because वो हम लोग data extensions लेके आ रहे हैं. So that was I was thinking on those lines.
that is a
Let's try
point
this
as well.
one. Let
So
me try
here
this one.
one, what does one mean? Does it mean one record or first record?
First one.
First one.
Yeah, same thing. Okay. Yes. So let me again reiterate what we did over here, so that clear for everyone what all we did. So the use cases for this one, based on your data and the data extension, you need to show the values to that particular user. Okay, that is what I'm, and it could be dynamic. So what I'm doing is over here initially, first of all set of declarations are happening, variables, and then setting the values onto that. Okay, then importantly what we are doing is we are getting into this loop where we are traversing, first of all we are having a row set back from the data extension for that particular values, and then we are traversing to the first row of it, and then from that first row we are just simply copying the values for city and state and publishing it. So there were some other things that we thought we'll do that, try that. So if you can just tell me, we'll see, because there's very less time to do anything, but we can discuss about it. So was it Marvel or Jignesh? I forgot. There's some other use case we wanted to try. Also your use case. Jignesh, yes.
Can you just add one more record to the D and see if
Yeah.
if you change the
Yeah.
contact, the
Yes.
data
And
changes,
then don't put that
Yeah.
one,
That's good.
row one, that field.
and just a change.
Yes, let me do that.
Like,
And
can we make this dynamic? Like, if we don't want it to just fetch a particular record, we just want it
Mhm.
to fetch anything and just change it based
Accordingly.
on the customer subscriber.
Correct. So remember I spoke about that for loop. So once you get a row set from here, for example, if I get a row set which has got 10 records, and we
Yeah,
keep on traversing with the help of for loop, you can do that traversing. The first record, print something, for second record, print something. And if for example under second record you've got status is equal to platinum, then you can put something different. So that can be done.